So Bonds, Clemens, and Schilling have all been officially voted off the Hall of Fame ballot. But another heavy hitter has gotten the call from the Hall. What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. It's your baseball bro, Christian here. Now, before we get into all of the Hall of Fame news, I'm going to need you guys to do a couple of things for me, please. First, leave a like on the video if you enjoyed. Next, go over, smash that red button, go subscribe. That's the best way to show your support here on the channel. Then ring that bell to get notified. Finally, if you want to get active, leave a comment down below. I would love to hear your thoughts on this year's Hall of Fame inductee. Now that that's out of the way, let's get into it. So it looks like as of now, the Hall of Fame class of 2022 will only have one member. And that one member is the Twins and Red Sox legend David Ortiz. Now on Tuesday, David Ortiz was able to get the call from the Hall as he earned his place in Cooperstown after receiving 77.9% of the votes from the writers. Now that 77.9% is just about 4 percentage points more than the 75% required to get into the Hall of Fame. In other words, it was a close call for David Ortiz in just his first year of eligibility. But the writers, they got the job done for Big Papi here in year one. Now, before I give you my opinion on this David Ortiz induction news, let's quickly go over David Ortiz's stats from his amazing 20-year career in professional baseball. So Ortiz racked up a career batting average of .286 with 2,472 hits and 541 home runs in 8,640 career at-bats during his 20-year career. Now I have to say, after looking at these numbers real quick, I'm quite shocked that Ortiz does not have 3,000 hits. He's just under that magical number of 3,000. Of course, only a few select players have gotten there. A guy like Roberto Clemente just got there. A guy like Miguel Cabrera is a few hits away, will probably hit 3,000 sometime next season, but I'm just shocked that Ortiz did not get 3,000 during his 20-year career. But that doesn't take away the fact that Ortiz will always be remembered as a feared power hitter. Now, his stats do back up that sentiment, because with the Red Sox, Ortiz's slugging percentage only dipped below 500 once for one full season, and that was back in 2009, which was one of 3 seasons that David Ortiz did not make the All-Star team with the Red Sox. Now, the other 2 times he did not make the Midsummer Classic was in 2014 and 2015. But both of those 2 seasons, Ortiz did end 2014 and 15 with a 500 or better slugging percentage. So there is no doubt that David Ortiz was a feared power hitter, especially during his 14 seasons in Boston. So in my opinion, I think this Hall of Fame induction is well deserved. And as a Tigers fan and a baseball fan, I always thought that when I saw David Ortiz play, he was a top 5 hitter in all of baseball. Now, of course, I only recall watching David Ortiz play probably beginning in like 2011, 2012. Of course, that 2013 ALCS home run off Benoit really killed me, and that's pretty much when I respected the guy as a hitter, because of course, I was just getting into baseball at that time, and obviously that stroke in the championship series had me open my eyes to how great David Ortiz actually was on the baseball diamond and how feared he was, in that batter's box day in and day out. Now, with that, I know that there are some people out there who are suspicious about David Ortiz when it comes to steroid use. This is because, quote, Ortiz was a subject of steroid speculation after he reportedly tested positive in anonymous survey testing back in 2003. However, this was during a time when baseball had no official drug testing program put in place, and when one was implemented in 2004, Ortiz never failed one drug test from 2004 all the way up to his last season in the majors in 2016. So with that, I take the stance that players who test positive for PEDs post 2003, like Alex Rodriguez, do not belong in the Hall of Fame. And yes, that does mean I believe that guys such as Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens do in fact belong in the Baseball Hall of Fame. So with that, let's get into those stories right now. So as you know, the 2022 Hall of Fame class was the most anticipated class in recent history. This is because two of the biggest stars from the 1990s steroid era, Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens, had one last shot to make it into the Hall of Fame via the Writers Committee. And unfortunately for them, just like the previous 9 years, the story did not end with those two walking those hallowed halls for eternity. That is because both Bonds and Clemens did not earn at least 75% of the vote from the BBWAA. This year's voting ended with Bonds receiving 66% of the vote and Clemens receiving 65.2% of the vote. Now, my opinion has changed in the last 2 years when it comes to known players who used steroids and likely steroid users prior to 2004. Because 3 years ago, I would be on here telling you that any known or highly thought of player who used steroids prior to 2004, like Bonds, Clemens, or Canseco, do not belong anywhere near the Baseball Hall of Fame or the city of Cooperstown for that matter. However, this is not 2019, okay? This is 2022, so the times change, and that means people change and people's opinions change, like myself. So I think it's time to really consider letting these guys in, these icons of the sport, into baseball's most beloved and cherished and sacred place on the face of the earth, and that is Cooperstown. I think it's time. Some may say it's long overdue, and right now, today, I agree with that. I think it is long overdue, and I have some reasons why my viewpoint has changed I would like to mention to you. The first reason is because I believe that baseball should not continue to punish players for allegedly breaking rules that were not officially a part of baseball's rule book at that specific time they were playing the sport. That is why I'm okay with letting Bonds, Clemens, and Canseco in, but I'm not okay with letting guys such as Alex Rodriguez in, or a guy like Robinson Cano. Secondly, I do believe that there are some players in the Hall of Fame right now who did use steroids. Now, two guys that come to mind are two well-known catchers, that being Mike Piazza and Ivan Pudge Rodriguez. Now, for the sake of the discussion, let's focus in on Pudge. So, when it comes to Pudge, I have major suspicions of him using steroids during his first year as a Detroit Tiger, and that was back in 2004, okay? Now, the reason why I have this suspicion is because when he got to Detroit, Pudge was no longer pudgy. He was extremely fit and lean. And if you think about it, it was extremely unusual for a guy who was coming into his age 32 season at the time to be so fit. He looked really good once he signed that contract with Detroit after he won the World Series with the Marlins in 2003. Not to mention, 4 out of his 5 seasons here in Detroit, he made the All-Star team. Now, I get it, he wasn't one to put up massive home run numbers, but still, a guy who made the All-Star team 4 years in a row, 4 out of 5 overall, in his mid-30s is pretty impressive, especially for a catcher. And that's kind of why I have suspicions about Pudge Rodriguez and steroids. And the final point is that, the writers are encouraged to consider this, quote, character clause, okay? Now, I think the character clause is the stupidest thing ever. I really do. And the reason why is because I think most writers take this character clause way too seriously. seriously. And frankly, I don't think a clause like this should even exist when considering, someone for the Hall of Fame. Because I believe the Hall of Fame should solely be based off of statistics and not a man's individual character off the field, or even on the field for that matter. And that's why I think this character clause is just taken way out of proportion by most of the writers in baseball, and that's what I think is screwing not only guys like Roger Clemens and Barry Bonds, but guys like Curt Schilling who weren't even connected to steroids, and we'll get into Schilling right about now. So I think we all understand that this character clause is the main factor and reason why Curt Schilling is still not in the Baseball Hall of Fame. Because like I said earlier, I think many writers are taking this character clause way too seriously. And many are claiming what Schilling has said in the past on Twitter, quote, violates this character clause, which is beyond stupid. Now with that, I think writers who do not vote for Curt Schilling for this reason are stupid, arrogant, and no longer deserve to vote for the Baseball Hall of Fame. I also believe that the fact that MLB and the Hall of Fame has allowed this to happen over the past few years is equivalent to allowing suppression in their sport, because the writers are basically suppressing and shaming one man due to his various views and opinions he has publicly expressed. If that's not suppression, I don't know what is. And the thing that every writer should consider, you are electing a man into a Hall of Fame, not priesthood. This is not that big of a deal in the grand scheme of life, okay? You don't have to be perfect. And the last thing is that if they claim this character clause must be taken so seriously, then players like Ty Cobb and Babe Ruth should be out of the Hall of Fame this moment. The reason being for Ty Cobb is because he frequently expressed racism and bigotry, and Babe Ruth because of his well-known infidelities. And that goes for any other player who's in the Hall of Fame right now that we can find who have not expressed and exemplified true characteristics of a gentleman. Because of course, baseball is a gentleman's game, right? So that's all I got for today's video. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Comment down below your thoughts of what we've talked about here today. Tell your friends about these videos and my channel. I would appreciate it. And as always, I'll catch you guys later.